We work with professionals in their field and say, hey, what are you the best at? And really the question after that is also, do you love it? And so often sometimes you're like, oh no, someone's crying in the room, send them to counseling. It's like, no, like this is just a tough conversation.
Hey everyone, welcome to DARPAN Chat Central. Death is a universal truth, but many of us don't have conversations with our families on how to tie some of the last years together when it comes to assets or leaving a legacy behind that we've imbibed by in our life. Well, to make those conversations harmonious with your family as well as be at peace with your own self, there is an organization called Soul Counsel, and its motto is "In Darkness, Light." And to tell us more about it, I'm joined by the founder and Chief Vibes Officer, Sukhminder Virk. Let's say hello to him. Hi, Sukhminder. How are you?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for taking the time. Very interesting title, Chief Vibes Officer. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with that.
Well, it's kind of interesting when folks would come to the office, they always said, like the vibes. And I was like, well, all right, then who's setting the vibes?
And you're spearheading the vibes.
I'm spearheading the vibes, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so name is Sukhminder Virk. I've been a lawyer for over 10 years. I formerly served on a number of not-for-profits in Surrey. I was the former board chair of the Justice Institute of British Columbia. Okay. And I started Soul Counsel beginning of last year.
Okay, very, very cool. So you started this about a year ago. How did this concept come about to transition from a law background to doing something of this nature? Totally.
It was interesting working with clients and really going through their internal struggles. And really, sometimes even challenging around, kind of their own perception of their reality. And like, are we facing truth? Are we seeing things objectively? And unfortunately, all too often the answer is no. And it's really the kind of a simple question. And what I noticed, and no one was asking it, like, what is your true legacy? Full stop. And as a lawyer, we were dealing with the assets. And really that was principal driving force. And sometimes legal work, became a bit educational, educating clients through, the different components of a will, for example, or a trust. But really after that, it became kind of a document filling. And like, where's the value? And so from that's kind of there's a longer version to the story, I'm sure you can imagine, but that's the genesis for it. And for me personally, it became a way to serve.
Right.
And it becomes about, holding space for those difficult conversations. And, I saw the conflict really for the second generation because the first generation would pass away.
Right.
And then also the second generation is left with the conflict. And all too often where, the parents may feel like, hey, look, we dealt with our affairs, appropriately.
Right.
There's a certain level of denial. And I know these are tough conversations, right? We're talking about death. But as you started with, so thank you for leading it, but, death is universal. And so sooner we kind of, face that reality, call it the darkness.
Right.
And then, it becomes not just about leaving a legacy, but also building one.
Correct.
So there is beauty in focusing families on the future.
And that's so beautifully said. With that, you mentioned the concept of service and how that's so important and that's key with this particular organization. What's unique about your services?
So what differentiates us, I would say, from any other existing kind of professional services platform is that we really focus on truth and getting to that difficult concept of truth, like bedrock. And so we hold space for that. And, talking to accounting firms and law firms is that we handle the emotions. We're not afraid of them. And so it's like, oh no, there's emotions in the room. I'm like, thank you, more please, right? And so it's not something to shy away from because that's a part of decision making. And, there's science behind it, but like decision making is emotional.
Right.
And so often sometimes you're like, oh no, someone's crying in the room, send them to counseling. It's like, no, like this is just a tough conversation. And so really that's what differentiates us. We start from that core.
Okay. So do you have a team of different experts who are collaborating together in terms of helping people? How does it kind of work in terms of estate planning, all those kind of things?
Absolutely. So, we have that core service that Soul Counsel provides, and we do really two big components to it. One, we call it holding space for truth. And the second element is we do the project management. We make sure the files get done. Like, who's going to be like, hey, I need to go get insurance, or I need to go get a will done? It's not going to really just, happen. But that's where we make sure that the file gets complete.
Okay.
And the other element is now, like, who's going to work on this stuff? And so, rather than trying to be the master of all, which is very difficult,
right,
we work with professionals in their field and say, hey, what are you the best at? And really the question after that is also, do you love it? And so working with lawyers that, really love what they do and are really good at what they do, and, the different professions throughout. And, the client experience and journey is that we're there to facilitate and make sure that they meet the right people.
Very, very key. Well, if people wanted to find out more about Soul Counsel, where can they go?
Yeah, you can visit our website, soulcounsel.ca. We have Instagram and other social media platforms.
Yes.
Or honestly, just pop by. We're at 228 Manitoba, and come feel the vibe.
That's awesome. What's been the reception so far?
Honestly, it's even being here, it's talking to DARPAN, and it's been really fantastic.
Great.
And so that's where, like, for me, it's like getting the message out there, talking to people, and the more I talk, the more I'm getting good vibes.
That's great. Okay. All right. Good vibes is where it's at. Well, thank you for taking the time.
No, thanks for having me.